I'm okay, I'm on my way, my way, my way. I don't want to waste your time. You can go and live your life. I am fine, I'm on my way, my way, my way. Many times I promise not to walk away, but you lie and let me alone in my bed. You will never share, don't come back again. Don't come back. I do not need you, I'm really free. You do not need me, just walk away. I do not need you, I'm totally wake up, wake up, wake up. I do not need you, I'm really free. You do not need me, just walk away. I do not need you, I'm totally wake up, wake up, wake up. Take your things and go away. Do nothing, come back again. I'm okay, I'm on my way, my way, my way. I don't want to waste your time. You can go and live your life. I am fine, I'm on my way, my way, my way. Many times I promise not to walk away, but you lie and let me alone in my bed. You will never share, don't come back again. Don't come back. I do not need you, I'm really free. You do not need me, just walk away. I do not need you, I'm totally wake up, wake up, wake up. I do not need you, I'm really free. You do not need me, just walk away. I do not need you, I'm totally wake up, wake up, wake up.
Muy buen día tengan todos ustedes. Por favor, les invitamos a tomar sus asientos. Welcome and good morning to everyone. En nombre de la Universidad Politécnica de Yucatán, del Gobierno del Estado a través de la Secretaría de Investigación, Innovación, Educación Superior, el Instituto Yucateco de Emprendedores y el Consejo Británico, les damos la más cordial bienvenida a el inicio de este seminario internacional Sistemas Mundiales de Modelado Marino para el Desarrollo Económico de Yucatán. Agradecemos la presencia en representación del gobernador del Estado, licenciado Mauricio Vila Dosal, del maestro Bernardo Cisneros Buenfil, secretario de Investigación, Innovación y Educación Superior del Gobierno del Estado de Yucatán. Nos acompaña el director nacional del Consejo Británico, Mr. Kevin Mackenzie. Asimismo, damos la bienvenida al Senior Scientist and Subgroup Leader del Marine Systems Modeling Group del National Oceanography Centre de Reino Unido, Dr. Jeff Polton. Agradecemos la presencia del doctor Gildardo Sánchez Sante, rector de esta Universidad Politécnica de Yucatán. De igual manera, agradecemos la presencia del licenciado Antonio González Blanco, director general del Instituto Yucateco de Emprendedores. Y por supuesto el agradecimiento al director de la Escuela Nacional de Estudios Superiores Mérida de la Universidad Nacional Autónoma de México, doctor Xavier Chiapa Carrara. Y bueno, pues escuchemos precisamente el mensaje de bienvenida a cargo del doctor Gildardo Sánchez Sante, rector de esta Universidad Politécnica de Yucatán.
Muy buenos días a todos, bienvenidos. Y bueno, pues quisiera, probablemente yo creo que sea mejor decir esto en inglés, en atención a nuestras visitas del día de hoy. So, on behalf of the Universidad Politécnica de Yucatán, I would like to express the most warm welcome to all the participants of the international workshop Marine World Modeling Systems for Yucatan Economic Development. This workshop happens due to the generous support of the British Council and the collaboration efforts of Secretaría de Innovación, Instituto Yucateco del Emprendedor, and Universidad Nacional Autónoma de México. We are particularly honored to receive researchers from the National Oceanographic Center, and in total, we will have the participation of about 25 researchers from almost all the research institutions which have related programs or projects, and about 5 companies and 6 government agencies. For UPI, these kind of events are very important for several reasons. We are a dynamic, enthusiastic organization with a short life. We started in September 2016 with our 3 academic programs: data engineering, computational robotics engineering, and embedded computational systems engineering. We will be adding a new program to our academic offer soon, which will be the cybersecurity engineering. The knowledge of all those programs are, in many cases, the tools that other important areas use in order to explore, gather data, and process it in order to generate useful information for decision making. I learned that NOC, the National Oceanographic Center, has a strong research on robotics, and that they host and operate a national data repository. So it is important to use mechanisms as those provided by this workshop to know each other and to explore ways to collaborate involving students and professors. And even more important is the potential impact that such collaborations could have in the economic development of the state of Yucatan. We are blessed with access to a beautiful coast, but also we have to remember that we are located just above what is considered a very important freshwater reservoir. We have the opportunity and the responsibility of taking care of them, while assuring sustainable use of those resources in order to provide economic wealth for the community. I am sure that what all the experts will be discussing during this week will converge in interesting ideas that could be transformed in projects for mutual benefit of the UK and Mexico. So enjoy your stay in this marvelous place. May all your efforts be fruitful, and thanks. Good day for everyone.
Muchas gracias al doctor Gildardo Sánchez Sante, rector de esta Universidad Politécnica de Yucatán. Y bueno, pues ahora vamos a conocer un poco más sobre el contexto y el propósito de este seminario, precisamente a cargo del doctor Jeff Bolton, Senior Scientist and Subgroup Leader del Marine Systems Modeling Group del National Oceanographic Center del Reino Unido.
Well, thank you for that very warm welcome, and thank you for UPY for hosting this workshop. Thank you also to the British Council who've made this opportunity possible. And our thanks also go to the partner institutions and research institutions and facilities who are collaborators in this project. We thank you so much for your hospitality. I've been here a few days already. I know the food is amazing. The culture is fascinating. In fact, yesterday over the cochinita pibil, we discovered a number of points of interest, of common interest. So we were talking about highly specialized interest, things you do here, like big data, artificial intelligence, and automated vehicles. These are all points of discussion that we have shared interests in. Also yesterday, diving in the cenotes, I learnt a lot about the challenges you have about the freshwater management of the systems. And we have areas of common interest, how the tides might be interacting with these big freshwater reservoirs. So in 2 days, we've already discovered a lot of things that are very exciting, and there could be a lot of mutual opportunities to move forward and come up with some great programs. So I have very high expectations for the outcomes of this meeting. I'm sure we can do a lot of important things together. I hope that we can have a lot of open discussions and a lot of sharing of ideas. I hope you feel free to come and talk to us and share your ideas. There are too few of us to talk to all of you, but you must come and talk to us. So thank you again for hosting us. I'm very much looking forward to what we can achieve together.
Muchas gracias, doctor Jeff Bolton. Y bueno, es de destacar que un jugador importante también para la realización de este evento ha sido el Instituto Yucateco de Emprendedores, y por lo tanto vamos a pedirle a su director general, licenciado Antonio González Blanco, que nos dirija un mensaje.
Muy buenos días a todas y a todos. Antes que nada quiero saludar al maestro Bernardo Cisneros Buenfil, secretario de Investigación, Innovación y Educación Superior del Gobierno del Estado de Yucatán, en representación del gobernador Mauricio Viladosal. Como siempre es un gusto, secretario. Por supuesto, a Kevin Mackenzie, el director de país del British Council en México. Muchísimas gracias, Kevin, una vez más por confiar en trabajar en conjunto con nosotros, y con él aprovechar saludar a todo el equipo del British Council que se encuentra en Yucatán, que siempre es un placer recibirlos y trabajar de la mano con ustedes. Por supuesto, al doctor Jeff Bolton del Centro Nacional de Oceanografía del Reino Unido, y con él pues a todos los que vienen, no solamente de esa institución educativa del Reino Unido, sino también a los que hemos estado recibiendo en semanas pasadas y los que seguiremos recibiendo. You are very welcome here. You have your home in Mexico, in Yucatan, and we hope that it's not the last visit, not only making professional activities, but even doing more tourist activities. Y por supuesto al doctor Xavier Chiapa Carrara, director de la Escuela Nacional de Estudios Superiores Mérida, de la Universidad Nacional Autónoma de México, la máxima casa de estudios de este país. A los chicas y chicos de la Universidad Politécnica de Yucatán, de nuevo es un gusto estar por aquí, a todo el equipo del Instituto Yucateco de Emprendedores, medios de comunicación, público en general. Es para nosotros en el IYEM un gusto participar en este tipo de actividades que demuestran una vez más que lo que nos ha pedido el señor gobernador Mauricio Vila de la forma de trabajar en equipo es la única que entendemos. Hoy en día iniciamos en conjunto un proyecto más en donde se ve el espíritu colaborativo que tiene este gobierno del Estado para poder lograr objetivos en común, y que esto no se queda nada más en un trabajo hecho con las instituciones que se encuentran en Yucatán, con las instituciones que se encuentran en México, sino que estamos llevando a cabo distintas acciones y actividades de manera bilateral y multilateral con muchos países del mundo, y que por supuesto agradecemos mucho al Reino Unido y a todas las instituciones que forman parte del gobierno del Reino Unido que estén tan interesadas en seguir desarrollando actividades en México y en especial en Yucatán. Este seminario es claro ejemplo de una suma de voluntades y objetivos comunes de poder, a través de la ciencia, la tecnología y, por supuesto, lo más importante que tenemos en este planeta, el talento de los seres humanos, desarrollar diferentes soluciones que puedan seguir transformando nuestro estado, nuestro país y el mundo entero, y que de esta manera aprovechemos el talento para generar las soluciones de las problemáticas que tanto nos ocupan en lo local y que estamos seguros algunas se pueden replicar en lo global también. Desde el arranque de la administración en el Instituto Yucateco de Emprendedores hemos llevado a cabo diferentes tipos de actividades que son muy importantes para los fines de desarrollo económico y social en el Estado, y no me dejarán mentir algunos de los alumnos que se encuentran aquí. Hemos incluso venido a promover algunas de las convocatorias que hemos tenido en el instituto, que tienen que ver no solamente con el desarrollo de estas soluciones usando la ciencia y la tecnología, sino también pasan también por cuidar esas soluciones, esas creaciones. De alguna manera, programas como Innovación y Prototipado, como Tu Empresa, Tu Marca, son programas en los cuales hemos estado invirtiendo no solamente para que chicas y chicos de diferentes instituciones de educación superior del Estado puedan desarrollar estas soluciones, sino que también las puedan proteger a través de los subsidios que nosotros entregamos. Hoy en día, y sobre todo para los jóvenes, es importante que sepan que estamos en un Estado que tiene un ecosistema de emprendimiento sumamente sólido. En muchas publicaciones incluso se dice que el ecosistema de emprendimiento, innovación de Yucatán es el más desarrollado del país, cosa que por supuesto no solamente nos da mucho gusto, sino que nos da muchísima responsabilidad de seguir haciendo un trabajo colaborativo en el cual podamos asegurar que este ecosistema sea cada vez mejor. ¿Y por qué esto es importante? Porque estar en un estado que crece 3 veces a la velocidad a la que crece el país en su Producto Interno Bruto. Estar en un estado que es considerado el estado que más años de vida promedio le da a una MIPYME con 9.1 años, por arriba de estados como la Ciudad de México, como Nuevo León, como Querétaro, como Jalisco. El tener todas estas instituciones de educación superior, laboratorios, centros de investigación, incubadoras y aceleradoras, hace que, si bien el desarrollo de ciencia y tecnología y el emprendimiento siempre va a tener un riesgo, en Yucatán hoy en día, por las condiciones que tenemos, el riesgo es menor y por ende estamos en un punto y en un momento importante para tomar esos riesgos medidos y por supuesto generar aquí en el Estado las soluciones que tanto se necesitan en todo el país. Para nosotros el British Council es un aliado estratégico en la generación de plataformas de vinculación con representantes británicos de universidades e instituciones académicas, de centros de investigación, de laboratorios, que brinden sus experiencias en diversas áreas para poder seguir trayendo capital intelectual y de conocimiento, no solamente para las y los jóvenes del Estado, sino para todos aquellos que queremos hacer de Yucatán el mejor de todos los tiempos. A través del Centro Nacional de Oceanografía del Reino Unido se generarán talleres que apoyen a estudiantes y empresarios también locales a el desarrollo de habilidades de programación relacionadas con los depósitos y modelos de datos marinos para abordar los problemas socioambientales, costeros y marinos de México. Y vale la pena mucho destacar que hoy en día ya contamos con diversas empresas en el Estado que precisamente tienen alguna experiencia en este tema y que han desarrollado algunas soluciones en este sentido. Agradezco una vez más y reconozco el enorme esfuerzo de la Universidad Politécnica de Yucatán, a su rector, por supuesto a todo el claustro académico, al equipo directivo y administrativo, y le agradezco al secretario Bernardo Cisneros una vez más que nos permita trabajar de manera coordinada para hacer este tipo de proyectos y refrendar el compromiso del Instituto Yucateco de Emprendedores para seguir siendo un polo de desarrollo para que todos aquellos que quieran generar un proyecto de negocio, un modelo de empresa que además tenga un impacto social y mejora las condiciones de vida del Estado, encuentre en el IEM el lugar idóneo para poder apoyarse. Muchísimas gracias, muy buenos días y mucho éxito a todos.
Muchísimas gracias, licenciado Antonio González Blanco, director general del Instituto Yucateco de Emprendedores. Y bueno, precisamente este proyecto es gracias a un fondo que el Consejo Británico ha destinado precisamente, que permite buscar la vinculación y generar estrategias de colaboración entre instituciones académicas y de investigación de Reino Unido con instituciones mexicanas. Así que bueno, vamos a cederle la palabra a su director nacional, Mr. Kevin Mackenzie, para que nos dirija un mensaje.
Pues muchas gracias. ¿Me oyen? Sí. It's a real privilege to be in a university that is bilingual. It's very unusual for me to be able to choose whether to speak in English or in Spanish, because usually I have, it's one or the other. And it's a real pleasure, and I've been very impressed by your university and the environments that you're in. Particularly that we were able to speak in English in the English zone outside. But But now that we're no longer in the English zone and in the spirit of bilingualism, voy a dar mis palabras en español. Pues antes que nada, quisiera agradecer por la invitación a formar parte de esta sesión de trabajo. Para mí es un gran gusto de visitar al estado de Yucatán, es mi segunda visita. La primera era para el turismo, la segunda es esta, que es más importante y también más interesante. No quiero decir que no es interesante el turismo, pero no sé, eso es más siempre para profundizar un poco las relaciones y el entendimiento del Estado. Yo creo que eso es más interesante. Y para saludar a ustedes, a los estudiantes investigadores y a todos los actores del sistema de educación superior que se encuentran aquí reunidos. Voy a hablar un poco del British Council, de quiénes somos. El British Council es la organización para las relaciones culturales y educativas del Reino Unido. Y nuestro enfoque en México incluye la articulación de iniciativas para una sociedad más inclusiva y para facilitar oportunidades a los jóvenes de forma que sean más resilientes y emprendedores. Y emprendimiento es una palabra que he escuchado mucho hoy. Así también, el British Council busca continuar colaborando con instituciones de educación superior mexicanas para incrementar el número de programas y proyectos de cooperación exitosos entre México y el Reino Unido, como lo del día de hoy. Higher Education Alliances es un programa diseñado para establecer vínculos entre investigadores, estudiantes y otros actores del sistema de educación superior, más allá del nivel individual, para crear oportunidades de colaboración de largo plazo. Y a través de la vinculación entre comunidades de distintas disciplinas y sectores, buscamos crear colaboraciones de alto nivel que transiten hacia proyectos binacionales enfocados en superar retos de desarrollo socioeconómico. Y de esta forma buscamos promover la inclusión de las instituciones de educación superior en una agenda más amplia de desarrollo regional. Promovemos la esta palabra siempre me confunde, la internacionalización de la educación superior, no solo a través de programas de movilidad, sino también por medio del intercambio de conocimientos y experiencias clave para el fortalecimiento de la infraestructura académica y la estrategia universitaria en ambos países. En este contexto, el taller que se lleva a cabo el día de hoy resulta ser un paso importante en el reconocimiento de las capacidades científicas y tecnológicas de instituciones británicas y mexicanas, con la finalidad de atender retos en las zonas costeras. Agradezco mucho a la presencia del National Oceanography Center. El Fondo Newton ha sido un instrumento clave para la cooperación, resultando en proyectos que incluyen soluciones para diversos temas no relacionados con las aguas, sino también en áreas como la educación, salud y energía, entre otros. Y en nombre del British Council agradezco al Instituto Yucateco de Emprendedores y a la Universidad Politécnica de Yucatán por su invitación y le reiteramos nuestra disponibilidad a asegurar la continuidad de la colaboración que hoy se inicia en pro del enriquecimiento de las relaciones educativas entre México y el Reino Unido. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias, Kevin Mackenzie, Country Director del British Council. Y bueno, pues ahora sí vamos a escuchar el mensaje que el secretario de Investigación, Innovación y Educación Superior del Gobierno del Estado de Yucatán, el maestro Bernardo Cisneros, tiene para dar ya iniciados formalmente los trabajos de este seminario. Por favor, maestro.
Muchas gracias, muy buenos días. On behalf of Governor Mauricio Vila, I want to give you the warmest welcome to Yucatan. We are very excited to have here the British Council team, in particular the country manager, Mr. Kevin Mackenzie. We are very honored that you're here with us this time. We have so many things to discuss, and I think that the future is pretty bright, and we have a lot of areas where we can collaborate. I also want to give the warmest welcome to Dr. Jeff Bolton. He is the subgroup leader for the Marine Systems Modeling Group, and he's representing the National Oceanography Center from the United Kingdom. We're very happy that you're here as well. También quiero felicitar y agradecerle, como siempre, al doctor y rector de esta Universidad Politécnica de Yucatán, el doctor Gerardo Sánchez, por siempre darnos la más cordial bienvenida. Aquí en esta universidad hay una energía diferente. Los quiero felicitar a todos, no solamente al rector y a todo su cuerpo docente, académico y administrativo, sino también a todos los estudiantes que con su esfuerzo y su buena voluntad hacen que esta universidad tenga esa atmósfera diferente de cambio y de trabajo. Quiero también saludar con mucho gusto al licenciado Antonio González Blanco, que es el titular del Instituto Yucateco de Emprendedores, por todo el esfuerzo en poder atraer este día de hoy este ejercicio de tanta importancia. Y por supuesto reconocer y saludar con mucho afecto al doctor Javier Quiapa, viejo amigo e impulsor de múltiples temas de interés para el Estado de Yucatán y cabeza de la Escuela Nacional de Estudios Superiores de la vecina infraestructura que tenemos aquí, que está pues próxima, ¿verdad?, a que tengamos allá la inauguración. Un gusto colaborar el día de hoy aquí con todos. Creo que tenemos una agenda de lo más rica, de lo más prometedora. Creo que por un lado, si vemos el tema de los retos para la sostenibilidad a nivel global, pues son múltiples, ¿no? Desde empezar a diversificar todo lo que son estos motores económicos de crecimiento. Tenemos que, por supuesto, modernizar todo lo que es la infraestructura, ver cómo vamos adaptando cada vez con más agilidad, con más velocidad, las nuevas tecnologías que hacen diferencias. Ustedes son, en muchos casos, los mejores representantes, ¿no?, de nuevas tecnologías que empiezan a surgir y que sabemos que tienen que ser adoptadas con mucha mayor velocidad para poder empezar a gestar estos cambios. Creo que también tenemos grandes retos para reducir la desigualdad en el mundo, no solamente en México. Por supuesto, tenemos que construir una agenda y una responsabilidad compartida sobre todos los temas ambientales y, por supuesto, proteger los centros de biodiversidad. Yucatán es un estado con una riqueza extraordinaria y creo que tenemos que ser muy claros en cómo vamos a proteger este atributo que tanto habla de lo mucho que tiene el estado. A nivel local, ¿verdad?, este tema de la sostenibilidad pues también creo que presenta pues retos particulares. Uno de ellos muy puntual es el que podamos generar una pues estrategia o una gobernanza colaborativa, que tengamos la habilidad de poder sumar los esfuerzos e intereses de todas las instituciones que tienen recursos, que tienen activos, que tienen laboratorios, que tienen investigadores muy calificados en pos de un mismo objetivo. Y creo que tenemos que ser sobre todo cuidadosos en la elaboración de políticas para estos grandes proyectos de desarrollo que implican o que afectan temas tan sensibles como el agua, la energía, la agricultura, la pesca y la agricultura. Finalmente, pues también temas de industria. Tenemos una tarea estratégica por generar juntos un plan para poder construir sistemas sostenibles, una especie de política, planeación, acción, en donde podamos ver cómo empezamos a enfrentar los grandes retos de crecimiento urbano, movilidad, migración, salud, entre muchos otros, sin tratar de hacer de esta lista un listado excesivo o extendido. Creo que también necesitamos juntos compartir el cuidado de la tierra. Es un tema que todos debemos de tomar, no puede ser solamente responsabilidad de unos cuantos, no puede ser responsabilidad solo de unos cuantos países que reconocen todos los grandes riesgos asociados al cambio climático, sino que tenemos que empezar no solamente por compartir la información que se tiene y generar pues un estado de conciencia general, sino por supuesto también invitarlos a colaborar y participar en acciones que nos ayuden al tema de la mitigación del cambio climático. Quiero también señalar que en el estado de Yucatán tenemos muchas experiencias colaborativas a nivel internacional que quiero poner en la mesa como un ejemplo de lo que se puede hacer. Quiero empezar por decir que tenemos un CIDETEI que es este sistema de investigación, innovación y desarrollo tecnológico del estado de Yucatán, que agrupa a las cabezas de todos los grandes centros de investigación y universidades que tienen capacidades de investigación para que juntos trabajemos para tratar de, uno, resolver los grandes retos, dos, tratar de poder aprovechar las oportunidades que se presentan. Y creo que eso nos da una fortaleza y una distinción significativa en relación a cómo se hacen las cosas en otros estados. Creo que es importante que este ejercicio colectivo pueda ser, sobre todo, punta de lanza a la hora de enfrentar los grandes retos que tiene el estado. Quiero señalar por un ejemplo, y aquí está con nosotros y va a participar activamente en la junta de hoy, el papel de la Universidad Nacional Autónoma de México aquí en el estado de Yucatán, no solamente con su campus multidisciplinar en el puerto de Cizal, que recientemente cumplió 15 años. Me tocó ir allá a la celebración y por supuesto me dio mucho gusto ver todas las capacidades con las que se cuentan, sino también tenemos a un CEPSIS, que es un centro peninsular de humanidades y ciencias sociales, que está en el Parque Científico y Tecnológico del estado de Yucatán, y también pues tenemos aquí de vecinos al ENES, que es un gusto porque además de todo han tenido una política de prácticamente puertas abiertas y podrán ver ustedes que no hay ningún muro que nos divida, sino que al contrario está la invitación puesta para que puedan hacer uso de mucho del talento que existe en la universidad vecina y de los laboratorios con los que cuentan. Y aquí sería, pues por ejemplo, para mí importante mencionar que el pasado mes de junio apenas tuvimos un trabajo coordinado por la UNAM y Arizona State University, en el que la verdad fue un seminario con muy buena participación, donde se habló de todo lo relacionado con la construcción de capacidades para la sostenibilidad, vulnerabilidad y adaptación al cambio climático. Si bien lo que tenemos es un laboratorio binacional, el reto y el espectro de acción es Mesoamérica. Entonces quiero que sepan que en Yucatán existe una iniciativa de esta naturaleza que tiene un alcance mesoamericano. Y creo que esto es importante porque todas las acciones de mitigación y la conciencia tiene que darse por igual en todas las partes del mundo y no solamente en aquellas que tienen preocupaciones más graves o que han estado de alguna manera o han sido sensibilizados a los grandes riesgos asociados con el mismo. También quiero mencionar un ejemplo muy puntual de colaboración en lo que fue esta tarea del Golfo de México N2N. Este es un trabajo que se hace con la Universidad de Texas A&M, también miembro del CIDETEI, en donde se convocaron a múltiples redes de colaboración a participar en temas comunes del Golfo de México y, por supuesto, asegurar estrategias de adaptación y resiliencia óptimas, tratando de prever todos los temas asociados con la variabilidad climática, con la participación de grupos y redes con intereses en el Golfo de México. Aquí tuvimos una presencia muy marcada de 42 diferentes organizaciones. Quiero recalcar por el número y por la importancia de alguna de ellas, pues aquí estuvo The National Academies of Science. No es común que tengamos en México la participación directa del equivalente al CONACYT de México en acciones aquí en el país. También tuvimos a 42 organizaciones, 17 de estas fueron internacionales, 25 fueron de México. Quiero resaltar que estuvo aquí también The National Science Foundation y por supuesto Cuba Marine Research and Conservation Program. Por el lado local, pues quiero reconocer la participación del Consorcio de Investigación del Golfo de México, SIGOM, que fue Sinvestab, CICI-WADI, UNAM, Instituto Tecnológico de Mérida, entre otros. Y creo que fue un seminario de lo más productivo, fue un taller donde tuvimos la oportunidad de compartir ideas y creo que tenemos las bases para una infraestructura que pueda ayudar a la generación de políticas y acciones a nivel mesoamericano. Finalmente, quiero comentarles que ahorita estamos trabajando con Michigan State University en la construcción de un programa conjunto que gira alrededor de la idea de una salud global, One Global Health. Y esto habla de que es una misma la salud de las personas, de los animales, del medio ambiente, y por lo tanto pensamos articular una serie de estrategias en este sentido que nos permitan comprender y administrar la necesidad crítica de adopción de un enfoque práctico y por otro lado una amplia participación y colaboración de múltiples disciplinas y también de disciplinas diferenciadas con capacidades que agregan a un músculo colectivo. Finalmente, pues quiero plantearles que estamos hoy trabajando de la mano del CIDETEI en un proyecto que se llama Acuífero Peninsular, donde estamos tratando de levantar el observatorio del acuífero peninsular. En esta primera etapa hemos hecho dos grandes propuestas a la convocatoria de CONACYT de Ciencia de Frontera. Dos proyectos son importantes: hidrología y medición del acuífero, y el segundo es uso y abuso del agua. Aquí están participando 7 instituciones, 42 académicos, y creo que lo que es importantísimo es que entre todos juntos podemos generar mejores propuestas, podemos trabajar en pos de generar caminos y vías claras, evitando todo tipo de redundancias y alcanzando mejores resultados en el largo plazo. Quiero nuevamente reconocer la presencia del British Council en México. Tenemos el día de hoy varios temas ahí programados y es una oportunidad extraordinaria de que conozcamos pues todas las áreas de interés, encontremos estos temas en los que coincidimos y podamos empezar a generar una agenda de colaboración que mucho hará en beneficio no solamente de todos los yucatecos, del mundo completo, porque el tema del cambio climático impacta a todos. Y sin más, pues quiero desearles a todos un seminario de lo más exitoso, de lo más provechoso. Pues lo importante es la participación de todos los expertos. Ninguna idea es tonta, ninguna idea es mala. Lo peor que pueden hacer es no preguntar o no participar, y en esa medida, verdad, que se mueve la información, es como vemos que las cosas avanzan con mucha mayor rapidez y fluidez. Y sin más, desearles a todos que tengan una semana de lo más exitosa y productiva, y pues me despido nuevamente deseándoles la mayor de las satisfacciones a lo largo de la semana. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias al secretario de Investigación, Innovación y Educación Superior, maestro Bernardo Cisneros Buenfil. Y bueno, pues con eso también agradecer a todos los miembros del Presidium que nos acompañaron. Les invito a que, si gustan quedarse para la presentación del National Oceanography Center con el que vamos a iniciar. Así que bueno, les invito a tomar asientos para que podamos ajustar y precisamente demos inicio con estas presentaciones, que estará a cargo en primera instancia de los doctores Gabriela Mayorga, Jeffrey Polton y Matthew Palmer, quienes nos darán esta perspectiva de las actividades del National Oceanography Center. Y bueno, pues también presentarles al doctor Eduardo Espadas, quien es el secretario académico de esta Universidad Politécnica de Yucatán, quien estará conduciendo precisamente los trabajos.
So I just say you're going to do that, and then I just say that you're going to do an introduction. Yeah, yeah. That's okay. Yeah. No? Victor? Victor?
Take your things and go away. Do nothing, come back again. I'm okay, I'm on my way. My way, my way. I don't want to waste your time. You can go and leave your light. I am fine, I'm on my way. My way, my way. Many times I promised not to walk away, but you lay and let me alone in my bed. You will never share, don't come back again. Don't come back. your things and go away. Do nothing, come back again. I'm okay, I'm on my way. My way, my way. I don't want to waste your time. You can go and leave your light. I am fine, I'm on my way. My way, my way. Many times I promised not to walk away, but you lie and let me alone in my bed. You will never share, don't come back again. Don't come back home. I do know that you want me to free. I do know that you just walk away. I do know that you want totally wake up, wake up, wake up. I do know that you want me to free. You do know that you just walk away. I do know that you want totally wake up, wake up, wake up. Take your things and go.
Matthew Palmer. So I'm going to leave you with them for this first presentation about NOC. Doctora.
Hello, good morning. I'm pleased to be here representing the National Oceanography Center. Some of us in the room have been working for this workshop before it even existed, so I want to thank them. Victor Camara from UPY, Cristian Escalante from the Entrepreneurship Institute of Yucatán, and Nuno Simoes from UNAM. Here we are. So we devised this, we designed this before there was even the possibility of it becoming real, so I'm really pleased to be here. I'm Mexican, so this partnership is particularly important for me. I go around the world representing NOC, but this is very close to my heart today. So thank you all for being here and making this a reality. So the National Oceanography Center is the biggest institution in oceanography in the UK, and we work worldwide. Our motto is that from coast to deep ocean, making sense of changing seas. I am the coordinator from the NOC side of this partnership of the Higher Education Alliance workshop. Yes. Let's go. So the National Oceanography Center has two geographical locations in the UK. Up north, the three of us here come from Liverpool, the Liverpool site. The Southampton site is much larger. This is our building is Liverpool. This is the building in Southampton. But in Liverpool, we focus on coastal oceanography, which is probably related to all of you here in Yucatan. We collaborate directly with the universities where we sit on. So at NOC Liverpool, we collaborate with University of Liverpool, and in Southampton with University of Southampton. We only take students to do research with us, and they belong to these two universities. We are around 600 staff, 185 scientists, and the rest is technicians and administrators. This is our annual funding, around £45 million, and our main funding streams come from UKRI, UK Research and Innovation, and NERC, the National the National Environmental Research Council, EU, industry, government departments, and agencies. At NOC, we are divided into groups, so it's 5 main groups, so marine physics and ocean climate that we have met here representing this group, which is mainly observational oceanography. We have the ocean and biogeochemistry and ecosystems, which is all the biological and biochemistry. We have ocean technology and engineering, which robotics goes in there. Matt is also an active member of that group, and marine geoscience, and I belong, and as well as Jeff Bolton, the marine system modeling group. So the vision of NOC is becoming the most innovative oceanographic institution in the world. So since we started working in this partnership with UPI, I learned what you guys are all about, and if there is a institutionalization of innovation, I will say UPY is that university. You guys are innovative, you guys are disruptive, and that's what we need to accomplish our vision and our mission, which is to make sense of changing seas upon which the future of human prosperity and well-being depends. So the way we at NOC we envision we will accomplish this is through addressing these big challenges. So we're trying to do big science for big challenges, but big science doesn't have to be expensive and huge. For example, what we are training ourselves now is in translocating technology to developing countries. So I was last month in Belize, and we were doing great science. We were doing bottom coring with a PVC pipe and a hammer. The results, the scientific quality of that is going to be the same of a corer that you will find in an oceanographic vessel that costs you £1 million or so. So anyway, the three big challenges that we focus on are securing and protecting ocean resources, protecting people and property from natural disasters and climate change, and understanding climate change and variability. So these are our three main focuses. They are very big. So I took this from our general director last time he addressed us all. He was thinking towards this decade of ocean science for sustainable development that's coming up, so 2020, 2030. And he mentioned the way we are going to work towards our goals, it has to include these disruptive technologies. And the main topics that we will focus on: health and resilient oceans, predicted oceans, safe oceans, and sustainable harvested and productive oceans. And data, it has to be transparent, it has to be accessible, to be useful, to be applied, to have an impact. So NOC, these are, we were originally a NERC center, and we have partnered institutions. Just to give you an overview of other centers that are in the UK, so the Centre for Ecology and Hydrology, British Ecology Survey, the National Centre for Earth Observation, British Antarctic Survey, there we are, and the National Centre for Atmospheric Sciences. These are our sister institutions, let's say. So at the National Oceanography Center, we have long-term marine science capability. So the whole cruises observation, it's a coordinated effort country-wise, which is something that Mexico will need to adopt. That's as a great model of making the most of your resources. So we have sustained ocean observations, global and regional modeling, major marine facilities data management, mapping and surveying, instrument development, marine autonomous systems, scientific advice, and working with business and multidisciplinary research and global scale, including development of new ocean measurement technologies. So this is the sort of thing we do. And then these are, our national facilities includes 2 oceanographic boats that can survey all around the world. So this is the big cruises. And then this type of high-tech equipment that we develop. So more on the facilities. These are our 2 vessels. We have the British Ocean Sediment Core facilities. So we have, as I was mentioning, storage of sediment cores from all around the world and analysis. We have a National Oceanographic Library, a National Tidal and Sea Level Facility. We have the British Oceanographic Data Center, and this is just situated in Liverpool, so the 3rd floor of our building. It's all about data management and responsible for this portal. We have also independent scientific advice, that's a service we provide. We have permanent service for mean sea level, national marine equipment pool. So we have all of these different instruments that are available nationwide for people from different institutions to use. So we manage them, but everybody, research institutions and researchers, they have access to them. So regarding the challenges people in the presidium were mentioning, and so you seem to be very conscious about climate change. the climate change issue. So these are some other issues that with a growing population is just increasingly worrying the future of our planet. So we work trying to provide information for ocean sustainability. In securing natural resources while it protects the ocean future, productive capacity, increasing the resilience of marine-related disasters, and making sense of global climate change and variability. And we are trying to be more continually aware of the ocean processes, the change and the variability, and making people aware of the importance of these processes. So our expertise, this is a partition related to our groups. So ocean physics and climate and sea level, and the marine system modeling group that I belong to, marine bioscience and marine geosciences and technology development. So these are the main areas of our expertise. This is some of our amazing toys. So we develop both sensors and autonomous vehicles. So we can, they are expensive toys, but it's much cheaper than renting one of the boats. Boat time in oceanography is one of our main constraints. So these little guys replace having to be in the huge boat, or basically multiply the power of people throwing instruments overboard, which is the classical way of measuring the ocean. We instead send a crew of these guys to different places. So Matt will tell you all about this next. This is again climate change. The role of the ocean is massive. If it wouldn't be for the heat capacity and the carbon storage capacity of the ocean, climate change effects will be full on in the planet. So the ocean warming accounts for 93% of the increase in the heat inventory. But we don't see the full effects. So the marine ecosystem may be feeling it already way worse than we are. So some of the effect of climate change in the ocean is acidification and sea level. So we're looking into all of that. So next, I'm going to give you borrowed slides because I think there's two things we have in common with UPUI. One is particularly with the degrees that you guys offer. So one is around data engineering. So I'm going to present you the British Oceanographic Data Center we know as BODC. And this is some of the stuff they do. So they are also a national facility. So they are there to preserve and distribute all the data. So if in the UK, if you have a project with federal funding, you have to release your data and make it publicly available. So BODC does that. So they do all the data management and data delivery. So this is one of the online portals. And they are, of course, specialized in oceanographic and marine data. So they have a very important role to preserve the data. So it can be used and reused now and in the future. So I will very quickly. That was all. So their expertise is data management with a marine component. So their overall aim is to manage and secure marine data for the long term through the use of stable and maintained data formats. And data tracking is identifying data sets and originators from field reports, monitoring dataset inventories, the reception, so they gather the data from the researchers and then make it in formats that are more universal. Then they keep long-term archives in accessible formats, and they link datasets in an inventory, and they also reformat, because what comes out of our robots is, of course, not legible. I mean, some humans can interpret it, but we want to make it available for everybody. And another thing that I'm going to present, as I mentioned, I was last month in Belize, so this is one of the amazing capabilities that we have into translocating technology and to actually bringing what we have to be used in other places. So I think this example can be very exciting for you guys. So there was, for a couple of years, there's been a camel in Belize. The camel, it's a concept that we developed because we now have this mandate to work in developing countries. There is some part of the science budget of the UK that's meant to be used in developing countries for science, but with an impact to society and to increase the well-being of the population in those countries. So it's not science for the sake of science, it's applied science that needs to show social impact. So the CAMEL, it stands for Containerized Autonomous Marine Environmental Laboratory, and it's basically this container, it's a lab that we can ship around the world. So one of the great things that's inside it is this little guy that we call the Sea Worker. So it's a surface remote control vehicle that we can operate from any beach, from any place. There it is on the move. This little guy is like 4 meters. And it can navigate at 7 knots and be operating continuously for 48 hours. So instead of bringing one of the big ships, we can just ship you this container, and you have this little vehicle that you remotely operated. You will have to get at least 2 of our technicians, but they'll be happy to come to Yucatan, I guess. So this is how it rolls. This is our beach in Belize. And so what it can do, it can gather high quality and high resolution data from 3 payloads. The payloads are the sensor, so you can just exchange this structure where different sensors are located. I don't know if I have that slide. Oh, here we go. So it's excellent for repeating transects because you can drive it like or program it. So if you program it, it's way more reliable. It will do what it's meant to do as opposed to playing with the sticks. But you can also just take over. So if you are looking at the data in real time and you see something interesting and you programmed your robot to go in a straight line and suddenly you really want to stay and continue sample, you just take over the controls immediately from it. It needs to be operated for 2 special guys. And it can work in very shallow water, which was important for the system because it's the Mesoamerican Barrier Reef. So the reef systems and the lagoon, they are really shallow. So it can, as long as you have a meter of water, it can go. And so the payloads, these are the different sensors that you can exchange. So in here, you just change this bit, and you can have a multi-beam echo sounder, or you can have interferometric bathymetry and side scan, and the sensors, here we go. You can have the classic CTD, so conductivity, temperature, and depth. That is the most classic oceanographic measurements. You can have ADCP for currents. And you can have the biogeochemistry sensors, so pH, dissolved oxygen, and also nitrogen, total organic carbon, dissolved organic carbon, and chlorophyll, turbidity. So you can exchange these different sensors and measure with this little vehicle. So that's what we did in Belize. This is the extension of transects we were doing. They were doing. I'm a modeler. And this is just a comparison of the efficiency of using this vehicle. So this is 3 days of work with the Sea Worker, and they cover this everywhere on these blue lines. And there is a data point every second. And this was the classic way of doing it. In a boat, you get to a station, you drop your equipment, you recover it. So this is 4 days of work, and they managed to do 58 stations only, as opposed to this coverage. So it's less effort, great data. And that's it. Just looking forward to establish a partnership with you guys, and maybe I ran out of time. Yeah, I don't know how to fix it. So our objective is just establish collaborations with you, find common ground, and And you may think you don't have a lot to give in this, but really we need people interested, we need young minds, we need people with the time that we don't have to develop many, many ideas. So there's a lot to give. And next, we will have an overview of the modeling system group by Jeff Bolton, and after that, the robotics group by Matthew Palmer.
Thank you very much, Gabby. So Gabby there gave an overview of the National Oceanography Centre and the things that we do. As she said, now I'm going to give a brief overview of some of the modelling that we do, and then Matthew will give a bit more of an overview of some of the robotics stuff that we do. So by way of introduction, I'm going to have a few little things here. We're going to talk about some modelling we do in different parts of the globe. We are now starting to do world modelling in a patchwork kind of ocean, so it looks like a quilt. I will talk about some of the new ways we've been getting funding, which might be relevant for how we take things forward. I'll talk a little bit about some of the science applications that may overlap with some of your key interests. And then since yesterday, we've been trying to think of new things that we might do together, and I'll just put some brief ideas up just to try and get us thinking about what we might do. So actually first though, I would say that the Marine Systems Modelling team at the National Oceanography Centre is actually a very large group. There's 20 plus scientists involved, and these interests are split between global modelling. So here is a movie of our global model. It's a 10-kilometer resolution. This activity mostly happens in the other office, and I will be talking more about the regional modelling, which we deploy in special regions of interest, and then we do focus studies in those regions of interest. But we do also have this global modelling capability, which I'm not going to talk about. Instead, I'm talking about the regional modelling. Oh, no, my clever thing has broken. Okay, so we're looking mostly at the regional modelling, so small boxes in interesting places. Now this is the team I'm mostly talking about. Now the interesting thing to notice here is everyone's smiling. This is a good thing to be doing. It makes everyone happy. Okay, next slide. So firstly, we do a number of projects with 3D oceans. So here, where it's important to get the temperature and salinity right. Can you forward? So here you can start to see the ocean is moving here. This is just a map of sea surface salinity evolving in time. This is a very large area, and to simulate this ocean you need a big supercomputer, okay? But this sort of program, this kind of project is addressing scientific questions about where does all the fresh water go? If we have some pollution in the rivers or whatever, where does that go? How does that impact the marine system? Okay, next slide. Then we can also take out subdomains of interest. which are cheaper to run. So here, for example, this is the Gulf of Thailand. Next. And here there are questions like, if the, so this down here is a movie of salinity. Next. Yep. Okay. So the blue is very fresh water, very fresh, and then the red is very salty. Now, if you live here, and then you've got a lot of pollution coming in, there are some geopolitical issues about this. You know, which country, who's responsible for the pollution that's coming around here? Because you have national boundaries here, and the dynamics. As if we wait, we will see that in the monsoon season it comes in, and then a different monsoon phase of the monsoon it goes the other way. So these are very difficult questions to address. Where stuff comes from and where stuff goes. The difficult questions to address without modeling. Okay, next. And so the way we've done this is we've kind of set up a system, a framework of modeling, which we use using kind of GitHub protocols for sharing things. And then we've been able to rapidly deploy new regions in different places around the world. So we've done an East Africa one, the one I just showed you. We did one for the Caribbean, and we're doing one in the Bay of Bengal. But it's all hinged on the fact we have this system, a reproducible system for redeploying the system efficiently. Next. Now we also do these, we've done a lot of 2D modeling, which is a lot cheaper to run. So you can run a 2D model where you're only really concerned about the sea surface height, what the sea surface height is doing. You don't care about the temperatures and salinities. Much cheaper to run. And we've done this for different applications. So we've done this for the Madagascar Met Service. They wanted a surge forecast model. And we managed to do some new technologies where we put them in a Docker system, and we built this ocean model in a Docker container that they could download from the cloud, they could run themselves, they could manage themselves. So this containerization of numerical models is quite new for us, and it's something that we're developing. It's quite exciting, but it's a kind of, if you're familiar with it, it's an IT problem. And we're looking for people with those kind of skills to help us develop this technology. And then in the Caribbean, we had applications where the in-state partners were interested in tide predictions, which we did a good job, and then surge predictions, which we did an okay job. Okay. Yeah. And here's a little movie of the tides whizzing around. Here you have your diurnal tides, I guess. So this model was the partners here, but of course, I know people who live around here. Now, another kind of application we've done recently is trying to get our fancy modeling out into the public. So we have this a smartphone app called AnyTide, which runs on sort of Apple or Android. And the idea here is that you can make global tide predictions accessible to anyone in the world. So when we run big computer models, the data is hard to access, and so we were trying to find ways to make that data more publicly accessible. Now again, we're scientists, so this isn't really our thing. So we're looking for new ways to find people to help us get impact through our science. So this is an example of what we did. So we have a server with the data. You make a request on your phone, and then you can get tidal currents or tidal predictions around the world. If you choose a place where there's a gauge, you get the gauge data, the measured data. If you choose a place between the gauge, you get a simulated prediction. And then it gives you time series, this kind of thing. Okay. Now, we're also looking into new opportunities. We need to find new ways to fund our projects, especially if we want to move forward working with you. We need new, innovative ways to get funding. So we've had some successes with the Newton project funds. And so an example of a project with Newton was to build a high-resolution ocean model here. The project here was to make better numerical weather systems for the monsoon system Here, you need to have resolution of a kilometer or so in order to get the convection, the weather right. So we built this ocean model for the UK Met Service for this. But there are also interesting science questions too. Okay. And then another thing we started very new, but we only have one person in the building who is skilled in machine learning, is applications of machine learning and artificial intelligence algorithms to make our lives easier. So one of the problems we had in our minds was we wanted to install a tidal energy extraction device in a place of very fast flow between two islands, and then we had a vehicle which could survey this narrow strait, and what we wanted to do was figure out what would be the tidal energy potential of the currents in this region. Now, when the vehicle surveys, it surveys in space and time, and you do not get a snapshot of what's going on. So we use the machine learning algorithms to interpolate in space and time to create maps of tidal currents that would evolve in time. Okay. Another new thing is for us is data assimilation. So here the idea is you've got a lot of data that you've collected remotely, and then you want to make your model, your simulation, constrained to be correct. So the way you do this is data assimilation. The way we do it is we write fancy big matrices, and then we solve them. It's computationally very expensive. There must be other cheaper ways of doing this. There must be better ways of doing this. We are trying to think of better ways of doing this. Okay, next. So finally, I just say I think we've been quite successful at finding new ways to fund exciting new ideas, and there's just a bunch of things here. But really what I want to draw your attention to is there might be lots of I think there are lots of exciting opportunities for us to find ways to work together. So we have found a few applications of machine learning techniques to do sea level predictions, wave predictions, and the currents I briefly showed you. But we only have one person, okay? And I think there's a lot of opportunity for people here if they want to work with him or with us. In that, there could be opportunities. Similarly, we have challenges in the UK about the fresh water and how the fresh water gets from the coast into the system. You too have big challenges about fresh water and how the fresh water which comes a lot further inside and how the tide interacts with the fresh water into the land. There's a lot of common interest there that we can think about. And finally, maybe there are smarter ways to combine observations and simulations. We have our techniques that are computationally very expensive and require very large supercomputers. We have that capability, and we work with the UK Met Office, but it's not agile, and it wouldn't work well for deploying for small industry or smaller scale applications. So maybe there are smart things we can do if we think about ways of working forward. And so those are just three things that popped into my head yesterday. So maybe hopefully there are lots of better ideas that we can come up with. Okay, thank you.
Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is Matthew Palmer. Slight deviation from what you've been seeing already. So my job at NOC is to work with the marine autonomous and robotic systems. So you've already seen this slide already, but it's worth looking at again. So we certainly run very large infrastructure at the NOC, such as the ships, But for the last 10, 15 years, we've been investing heavily in marine autonomous systems. And a lot is said about the capability of these systems, but really, in terms of the marine environment, these systems are really only starting to emerge as very useful tools. And the reason for that is the difficulty of using anything in the ocean environment. And I just want to run through some of the different vehicles and different applications that we're working with at NOC. I won't have time to cover everything, so please do come and have a chat after. And I hope this will be of interest. So I'll skip the slides that you've already seen a lot around. So one of the key parts of the NOC that sits outside of science is the National Marine Facilities. And this is a central facility where anyone in the UK or UK partners can bid in, if they can get science funding, they can bid in to use the large infrastructure that the NOC has available to them. So that means a university doesn't have to own a ship or a glider or a robot, or even employ the engineers. It can use the engineers and infrastructure that belongs within the National Marine Facility. And that's a very useful system and quite an effective system that we have in the UK. The specific part of the program that I work with is the Marine Autonomous Systems. And that consists of some 50 engineers, 20 of which deal with operations, so that's going to sea, putting equipment in the water, keeping things maintained so they're working. And then 30 engineers work in development. And that goes all the way from building very large vehicles, designing and working with private partnership to get small robotic vehicles built and made and put into the science community, but also working on some of the more software-based solutions such as the artificial intelligence and software development for those systems. And I hope that's also of interest to some of you. So why invest heavily in marine autonomous systems? We've already heard a little bit from Gabby. Ships are incredibly expensive, but also if you only have 2 ships, you can only be in 2 places. With all that available technology, we can be spread effectively all around the world with a whole range of different autonomous vehicles. And these are just some of the examples we have available to us at the NOC and that marine scientists use. Gliders, some of you may have seen, Argo floats, which are now covering our oceans, some surface vehicles. This was a development program, again, with a private partnership. ROVs are more traditional, and again, some of these new developed autonomous submarines. So we very much look at our fleet of vehicles in 2 ways. Firstly, there's the ship-based fleet, and that's the type of vehicles that need to be attached to a ship or have a ship very close by. So that might be some of the much larger vehicles here that you couldn't easily deploy from a small boat. And then the ROVs, which need to be directly attached to the boat by tether. On the long-range fleet, however, these gliders and some of the smaller AUVs are able to actually just be released from the shore or from a small boat, which makes them a lot more capable. They're typically low-powered and can last for long periods of time. So I just want to run through a few of those options. My time is very short, unfortunately, during this talk, so I'm going to run through fairly quickly. Again, come and see me after if you want more information. So the AUVs, autonomous underwater vehicles, typically with a propeller, and come in a variety of sizes, everywhere from this size to as big as this room. The pros of this, the good things of this, that they can work away from the vessels, they're very stable, and they can carry lots of equipment. But they do have a lot of limitations once they get under the water in terms of knowing where they are, and the underwater communications, so that you can actually get data off the equipment in real time, is a continuous problem. The ROVs are very capable, but of course have to be attached to the ship at all times, which obviously makes them quite limited. But you can see that when you combine the use of those AUVs and the ROVs alongside ship capability, here's just using an example with bathymetric survey. So here's a typical ship-based. We can then put an AUV in to do some very fine-tuning parts of that bathymetric survey, all the way through to the ROV where we get down to species identification with corals, etc. So a very high-resolution three-mode operation there from ships, ROVs and AUVs. From the long-range vehicles, we have a number of unmanned surface vehicles. These are great because you can still talk to them in real time. We can use satellite communication, so we know exactly what they're doing. But of course, they're quite limited in terms of where they can go and what they can do. There's also a problem that everyone else can see them. So there's always a problem that you might collide or even have your equipment stolen if you're working in difficult environments. And they are, of course, exposed to the wind and waves and everything else that's out there. My favorite tool of choice of the last few years, something that I use every day actually, is the underwater gliders. And these are very low power but long endurance vehicles that can go very deep, typically down to about 1,000 meters, but we also have gliders that can go down to as much as 6,000 meters. And these can do a seesaw up and down motion through the ocean, going long distances. The longest so far is about 4,500 kilometers, and collect a lot of data. But they're very slow, and therefore they have a lot of their own challenges. So our current fleet is I think you've already been shown, is some 30 to 35 gliders, a range of surface vehicles, and the ROV and autosub. We also have a number of different autosubs in development. And like I say, and now we're at the point of capability that we can go far beyond that sort of one or two platform platform capability. This is just one day from last year where we had 8 different projects. Thank you. Some 15 vehicles in the water, all the way from the Antarctic, through Drake Passage, off the Falklands, Namibia, Caribbean. I'm not sure where this one was working. It's not far from Morocco. And then a few working around the UK waters, and then all the way up into the Arctic, all on the same day, all being run by a team of 4 people. So you can see immediately the advantages here. However, the vehicles themselves are only platforms. They're only capable of doing what we tell them to do or what we design them to do. I'm going to skip through a few slides now because I want to get to some of the more tech developments. Again, these are the heavy engineering developments that we do at NOC. So if we start putting these vehicles into very extreme environments, such as under ice, this is an extreme challenge for us. So you can imagine having an ice surface, a very rocky but also unknown bottom. There's no bathymetric survey under that ice to help you. So now we have to come up with autonomous navigation, and also then communication capability, because if this vehicle doesn't come out, we don't get our data. So we're employing a whole range of different techniques. This is a really nice one that was developed recently using a particle filtering technique, actually, where you're gathering lots of information regarding the terrain, and based on what you know of how that terrain is formed, you can then use that to help navigate the vehicle, because there's a really nice software solution there to a very difficult problem. Also, we've been combining surface and underwater vehicles, in this case for through water communications. So now we have an underwater vehicle that can know exactly where it is by using a surface vehicle. And this is just defining sort of the swath region of these two vehicles here. So typically we might use that for bathymetric survey, but one can also imagine doing this for pipeline tracking. There's oil and gas applications, defense applications for this. And again, the extreme challenge of working under ice. And here's some data we collected last year underneath the Ross Ice Shelf. And I just want to very quickly get on to now actually dealing with what I see as really the biggest problem for us now, is now that we have this wonderful range of vehicles, all different sizes and types and durations and capabilities, unfortunately our current system, or certainly until recently, has been that this required an individually trained glider pilot, but also a different suite of software and management capability. And of course, this is very inefficient. All of a sudden, if I have 15 vehicles, I need 15 engineers. And of course, as I've already shown, we're already able to work beyond that. So a lot of effort lately has been trying to bring in these very complex visualization tools, planning tools, into a single common framework, the unified piloting interface, which allows a single pilot effectively to use all sorts of information, such as the model data, the weather data, try and pull that into better management of a range of systems, and then deliver that through a single piloting portal. And if I'd had time, I would now go online and show you our user interface, which allows me to talk to some 15, 20 vehicles at once. Again, hopefully we'll have some time this afternoon, and we can start walking through that. Thank you.
All right. I'm going to show you the agenda for the rest of the sessions. So the people that are be coming forward to give your talk, please check your names, check the order that you're going to be coming here to give your talk. So we are going to, as you can see, we have a little delay. So the first one coming forward is Nuno Simoes, Alex Sousa, and so on. We finished the first part with Edwin Guerra. We have a break, a 10-minute break. And then we have Laura, Carlos, Marcela, David, another little break of also 10 minutes. And we finish with Gabi, Enes Unam, and Sinvestab. So, please, Nuno, come forward, and Alex, please stand by.
¿Se puede mover el...? Sí, okay. Muy bien. Yo sé, 10 minutitos, okay. Well, thank you very much. I'll try to be brief. When it's a very nice citing that this idea that started 3 years ago, it's materialized on this room with all the students and the colleagues from the British Council. Thank you, Gabi, for organizing it. So when I was talking to Gabi, we on this workshop, we thought about presenting some of the problems and issues that we have here in the Yucatan, so we can interconnect and talk with the colleagues from the British Council. So thinking on something that's related to oceanography, I came down to focus on Alacranes Reef, which I think that it's known to most of you, and it's a very large coral reef system right in the middle of the Campeche Bank platform. So I'm going to talk not about technology. I will present some of the issues we are facing with Alacranes, and I hope that some of the technology could help us solving those issues. So it's not a technology-based talk, it's an issue, problem-based talk. So the aims of the project is that we need to make the coral reefs more resilient. Coral reefs are connected all over the Gulf of Mexico, so we need to know how connected they are, when they connect. So we need to know the currents that disperse the larvae between these corals. So if one coral system goes down, we know what are the coral systems that can replenish that again. And the other thing is that most of the problems we encounter on these reefs are human origin. Yes, we have climate change, but we also have a lot of human origin problems, and we need an interdisciplinary approach to understand those problems. We cannot look at them from one single perspective. So we need to know the fine-scale spatiotemporal ocean current dynamics. There's a lot of modeling. This is fine scale. We don't need these 10 kilometers. We need a very short scale. You will see why we need to know this. We also need to connect the hydrodynamics and environmental patterns with the ecology of commercially important species. When do these species spawn? Where do their larvae go? When do they recruit back to the reef? So we need to know the hydrodynamics to put on top of the physical hydrodynamics the biological component of those dispersal particles. And finally, we need to improve the information for local management decision making. We need to provide products that the park rangers can use to take their decisions. If there's suddenly an oil spill, I don't have time and money to protect the entire reef. What are the key areas that I need to prioritize my effort, my money, and my persons? Or if there is one problem with a single species that's going down, for example, el caracol, no? The queen conch. where do I need to concentrate my conservation efforts so I potentiate the investment of money and people. So Alacranes Reef, this is the Yucatán Peninsula, that's the Gulf of Mexico. Alacranes Reef is very far. For us, 140 kilometers north of Progreso. It's a huge area. It's the largest coral reef structure in the Gulf of Mexico, condensed. You have a lot of that in the Florida Keys, but those are kind of parched. You don't have such a large reef in the Gulf of Mexico, or, well, no, the Caribbean, yes, you have some very large coral reefs there. But within the Gulf of Mexico, this is huge. And it's very, very important as a source of larvae for Veracruz, the flower gardens, and the Florida Keys. So a lot of interesting connectivity issues there. So there's 4 little islands on the south and on the north. This is normally taken by the boats to rest, to be protected by storms, for example. And there is some zonation on what you can and you can't do within the reef. This is 21 kilometers in diameter and 14 kilometers. Continuous coral reef structure. Amazing. So I don't remember where I got this picture, so I have to apologize on not citing the source here. But what you have here is this complicated and intricate mesh of coral systems, and mainly the wind comes from this side. And once you start diving here, this is completely different in terms of environmental, the corals that are there, because they face a lot of energy. So this is the wave-breaking area of Alacranes. That's the deepest, where you have some walls, you have much more corals, so completely different environments due to wind wave energy. We need to know that so we understand better what we're seeing in the biology components of this reef. There's a tiny little channel there that you have currents that, I mean, it's like being in a river, you know, when it's raining. You can almost not dive there. If you just release yourself, woof, you will be flushed away into the Gulf of Mexico. Or if the tide is on the opposite direction, you will be flushed in. Really, really fast currents. Nobody knows what the water is doing on this structure. Also, it's very connected to, you can see that it's in a very shallow platform. So this is not deep, gracias. And we need to understand what's going on inside this platform so we understand what's going on in this fine scale region in the reef. What are the problems? These are some of the problems. Human and natural impacts to the corals and invertebrate biodiversity. We need to have that baseline matrix. We have fisheries for lobster, grouper, and queen conch. There's overfishing, and now there is illegal fishing as well. And we have a lot of under-regulated touristic activities. A lot of people go there to fish, and the numbers are being exponential in the number of boats that arrive during the summertime. And we are very, very close to one of the future oil and gas, very promising areas, which is actually right there. That's the area where the government of Mexico concedes all of this area for oil, and that would be the second step. Well, the second step is starting right, I don't know, about 50 kilometers from the reef. So this is more or less what's going on in Alacranes Reef. If you want to understand what's going on in Alacranes Reef, we need to understand that you have some cays outside of the water, and they have their own problems. And we have the reef underwater. So you have outside of the water issues and under the water issues. And most of the human pressure comes from the continent. And if we understand what's happening in the continent and the vehicles, the vectors that take people from the continent into the island, then we will start to understand the socio-ecosystem. So we need to know how many marinas there are, what are the authorities, what are the users, what they want to do in Alacranes, and we need to know what the boats they use to cross into Alacranes and back. If we are able to track this, we will start to understand the system. So the idea is to have indicators on this side, and on those sides on a data system that can be consultable through the internet using a lot of management indicators. So just to continue, anticipated the novel results and products that could come out from a workshop like this one. We would have non-structured grid models to understand and describe the water circulation in the park, including summer thermocline stratification. This is very important to understand the coral reef health. We need to know where the warm temperature is and when it is, so because that has an effect into the corals. And we need to have information for tourist carrying capacity studies. We need to calculate that and we need to monitor that. A lot of these problems come, for example, from ship grounding. There's a lot of ship groundings in Alacranes. That could be prevented. Realistically, commercially important species, we need to know their larval dispersion and connectivity, and realistic and fast response models for oil spill mitigation measures, as I said before. Activities and deliverables, we would provide local authorities, the CONAMP, with real-time environmental visualization tools for better management and decision-making, and we would consolidate Alacranes Landrest Coastal Observatory with fieldwork data collection for model validation and automated meteorological information supply and baseline time series. Wow, that was a long one. And seek for complementary funds together with CONACYT, the NOAA, and HCF. Those are institutions that we know that they could help us setting up a project together with the colleagues from NOC. And I think this is it. These are the resources we have: academia, government, international and civil society, and the project leads basically would be the Landrest Socioeconomic Observatory. You have an example here of some of the indicators we're already collecting to upload this into our web-based distributed information system on Alacranes. And I think that's it. Thank you.
So we have time for a couple of questions. Does anybody have a question? Here, in the front.
What are the key Sorry, thank you. Thanks for a very interesting talk. What are the key indicators that you're looking for in terms of ecosystem or habitat health?
You mean oceanographic?
Yeah, oceanographic indicators.
Yeah,
so
temperature, salinity, and wave energy. If we are able to monitor that on real time, or at least on, know what happened recently, that would be very helpful to understand what's going on in terms of coral reef health and also bathymetry. We have a good bathymetry model, but it's for very deep waters. We need a fine scale bathymetry so we can put, buoys and so on to let the boats know where they are and they don't crash into the corals. Not sure if that answers your question. Yep.
Has Landrest got anything there already, or is it something that you're
yes,
thinking of putting?
Yes, Landrest, this last year we developed this site that is being... The idea is that we have one place where you concentrate all the information on Alacranes Reef, and that information, that data, is visualized and delivered to the decision makers, mainly the Secretaría de Marina, the CONAMP, the park rangers, and the SCT, the Communications and Transport Agency.
What data do you have?
What data do we have? We have data from the socioeconomic variables. I can show you with the poster, but we have at the moment no data on oceanography. Not a large scale and small scale. We don't have that. Or if we have, I don't know where it is. Yeah. Thank you.
What do you think that it will happen if the overfishing continue of the species? Do you think that it could affect to the environment? Or
Okay, so there's two main fisheries, official fisheries. That is lobster, and the lobster data apparently is more or less stable. There's two confounding stories. Some colleagues say that lobsters are going down, but the data that we have access to is that the lobsters are more or less stable. They are fishing for grouper as well, and the data again tell us that the groupers are more or less stable as well. What is going down is the queen conch. There is a lot of illegal poaching and fisheries for that particular species. So the consequences of removing those animals from the habitat, I don't know. I don't know what they could be, but apparently there isn't that much of an issue with lobsters and groupers. No, I'm not sure if I answer your question.
Thank you very much. We next move with Mexican chef cheese with Dr. Alejandro Sousa.
Hi, I'm Alex Sousa from Simba staff after about 20 years in NOC. So I'm going to show a lot of things that they should know that they are doing there and they might not know. But also, I had a grant title calling it the Mexican shelf seas, but then I got told it was 10 minutes, so I probably just talk about Yucatán shelf, which is the largest and most interesting for us. But what do we have as the Mexican shelf seas? And we have 110,000 kilometers of shelf, of coast, of line coast in there, from which we have 3,000 in the Atlantic and 8,000 in the Pacific. We have a very narrow shelf in the Pacific, which is pretty much like what Jeff is known from his previous work in California. And we have the wider shelf in the Yucatan Peninsula. What do we have? We have very different areas in here. We have, if we look at the Stokes number, which is the ratio between how much the tide would pump water from the bottom and how much is the depth of the water, we see if you have a number like close to 1, which is the yellow, you will have a tidal mixing front. And the only tidal mixing front that we have in Mexico is in the Gulf of California, in the northern part, and probably in the area of Campeche. Our very important shelf of Yucatan, which is the largest, again, we don't have it. So we have very different shelf seas from what you have in the UK and Europe. We have a Rofi around this area, which is quite large, which is the Grijalva. And those were the 3 areas I was going to talk to originally when I first thought of it. The Gulf of California is very different because we have geopolitical problems because we don't have fresh water coming from America. All stays in LA and Las Vegas. But we will concentrate in this area, which we have. Nevertheless, as we have small tides, as we can see from here, we have very little tidal areas, but our productivity is still pretty large. Yeah, you can still see from the global pictures of particulate organic carbon how the shelf seas in Mexico. This is an average of an annual average from 2018 of the Gulf of the Mexican shelf seas, and you can still see a pretty high productivity. So we still have this big pumping of carbon and the big sinking of carbon that we cannot explain through tidal systems as we do in the UK. Obviously, the easiest thing you can say is this particular area is through the upwelling systems, but in here we start having problems. As I say, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the Yucatan shelf, and probably mainly at this area, Cabo Catoche, which is very important, but also what happened in here. We have a very shallow shelf of about 100 meters deep, and it's very wide. You can see it's about 2 degrees, probably more wider than that. And it's microtidal, and you have a strong influence of underground fresh water. We have things that you have high productivity in this area, which is done by the red color here in the chlorophyll, and you have a very strong oceanic current that comes here. And what happens is that you have an upwelling that is driven mainly by bottom Ekman transport, pretty much like the sinking that happens in the Irish and Scottish waters where the shelf edge current just pushes the water downwards because of bottom-Eggman. In here you have the opposite. It pushes it upwards. And it starts generating this. This is the current here, and this is temperature. You start looking at this at 30 meters deep, and you can see how cool water of about 22, 23 degrees starts to come on and impinge. That's deep water that's coming here, which is rich in nutrients, and start generating this. One of the big problems is how it comes from this little point here to cover the entire shelf. And this is very common. That was 2006. This is this year, and we start having, this is pictures from the University of Southern California, and you can see here temperature and currents. This is currents from driven by get from the altimeter, and you can see how, again, you have the strong Yucatán current coming here, hitting Cavacatoche and generating this upwelling here, which then it gets transported and generates these high concentrations of chlorophyll, this very high production. And this is one of the things that we would like to do with NOC and PML in how we can produce these high resolution sort of models. This is from NOC, ORCA 12 model, 30 meters, wall depth of the degree, 2006 summer, very persistent hot temperature. Here's the current, Yucatán current coming here hot, and the fresh water, how it comes and it propagates, how it comes and propagates here. And this is from May to August, and you see very persistent 2006, May to June, it's actually May to August, at 30 meters, and you can see how this fresh, cooler water is always coming up through the permanent event. If you do average from the long-term run that NOC has at what do you say, 9 degrees? Yeah. 9 degrees resolution, you can see that your mean temperature is pretty much that always. And then you have our variability, which shows pretty much what the upwelling does, which is the strongest variability, and it has an annual cycle. We still are debating what is happening, but it happens to, we think that it's probably some kind of relations with the local winds and how it drives pressure heads in this area and allows the current to heat more into the shelf and pump the water into it. And you see the same if you do it in the surface temperature or you do it in kind of a slideshow where you have, again, this is the mean average, the mean current, the mean temperature, and how it comes into the shelf. And this is the variability, again, of how it jumps in and out, and it brings all these nutrients from the deep water here. If you look at the current, you have a very similar picture, and you have here a very interesting result. This is the main current of those 50 years of data that we have there, and it shows a very strong enhancement of the current around Cavacatoche, which helps you drive that water pumping. But then if you do, instead of a time-dependent EUF, you do what the Americans call a gradient, which is you remove the spatial variability and the spatial mean into it. You have how this mean current is behaving. And it, again, has an annual cycle that it kind of makes us think that it jumps in and out of the area, pumping that shelf, that fresh water. This is some data that Ismael Marino collected in 2011, and it's showing the depth of the 22.5 degrees, which is the characteristic fresh water that comes into, cold water that comes into it. And it shows how it comes and how it jumps in there. And I want to show you, well, this is to show you that it's not due to the current here. It doesn't manage to drive a slope there, and it's not the wind. You only have like a 40-meter Eggman depth. But can we click into that picture, please? Oh. Oh. This is the important picture. You can see this is MIT 148-degree model. You can see how it jumps here, the water, and how it propagates into eddies into this area. And this is what we'd like to do with some cooperation of NOC and PML to put your ecological models as well as your physical models into this area and see how this productivity is driven and how this carbon is pumped out and put out of the system. With this, I finish. Thank you.
So, do we have any question for the speaker? We have time for a couple of questions.
Thank you, Alex. So just a point of clarity. So this movie is very nice because it shows you the deep water coming onto the shelf some 100 kilometers or so north of the coastline. There's a red band at the coastline. But the productivity map you showed it that the upwelling or whatever's happening was right at the coastline.
The upwelling is actually in the edge here. The productivity is kind of propagates in here as well, but it's
it appeared to be the origin at the coastline.
It won't be. That's probably just kind of satellite trickery from it. But you're upwelling and the major productivity is out here.
Okay, thanks.
In reality.
Yeah, thanks.
Anybody else? No? All right. Thank you very much. So our next speaker is Dr. Ismael Mariño from Simvestab, Unidad Mérida.
Okay, thank you very much. Hello, I'm Ismael. I am actually your neighbor. I'm now at ENES here. So, and I think there's lots of chance to collaboration with you guys that are doing technology, and NOC is coming. Okay, so I did this presentation naming it Coastal Oceanography in Yucatan, some of the stuff that we've been doing and involved, and linking ecosystems with economical activities is a topic that that I would like to see in the future much more. I mean, a future that will manage to do ecosystem work and become that in an economical activity. That will be a really nice thing to see in the future. So my name is Ismael Mariño, and I did a PhD in marine science in the University of Plymouth. I've worked 15 years in Simvestab, and now I am working in UNAM at ENES. So it's good that, so the aims of this presentation is to provide you science-based elements, provide science-based elements for aiding governments on decision-making process as an example, 2 examples, and also help the industry to identify economic opportunities and promote the efficiency of their activities through a scientific approach. So that's kind of the aim of, that I'm going towards. And the first topic regards fisheries and ecosystems, talking also about the whaling. So thank you, Alex, for introducing the topic. So I'm going to talk to you more about this very important process in Yucatan. And this is an ongoing project that is funded by SIGOM. It's a consortium of research in the Gulf of Mexico. And this is the people that has been involved in it, including Alex here. So basically, this here is from measurements. This is the Yucatan Peninsula, and the dots that you see here are measurements from an oceanographic cruise. It's a very big ship, very expensive to run. That will help us to get data from the ocean. And in here, you have a transect, this transect, to the depth. So Progreso will be about here. This will be Cabo Catoche, and then will be falling down to the Caribbean Sea. And you can very clearly see how this water comes up to the continental shelf. And this water is a fairly cold water, between 18 and 23 degrees. And it brings lots of nutrients that feeds onto the phytoplankton first, that are taking all those nutrients to grow. And then the zooplankton, the little animals that eat the phytoplankton, and they also start growing. So for example, this place is home of the whale shark. aggregations. Lots of whale sharks come to feed in there because of the upwelling that is occurring in this region. And from this first step, in Cabo Catoche, the water propagates and is very important to fuel biological productivity, including fisheries like octopus, which is very highly dependent on this temperature, and lobster and many other organisms. Okay, this is the circulation, the Yucatan Shelf. As Alex mentioned, is dominated by a very strong western boundary current. We call it like that. It's the Yucatan current, one of the strongest in the region. And it generates a westward flow, which is quite important as well. This is mainly driven by winds, but also the Yucatan has an influence. I'm showing you here results from a numerical model. This is a computer program. We can think about that, a numerical model that helps us to understand what's going on in the region. So this is Cabo Catoche again, and what you're looking at here is the vertical velocities that the model tells us that are occurring when you have a current that is encroaching the Yucatan Shelf. It's going along it. And if the current is not going on the northwestern direction, but towards the northeast, then the vertical velocities are very different, and they are basically weaker. And what we have observed, this is the situation in one of these oceanographic cruises in 2011. You can see the current here encroaching on the shelf. And this is, Alex showed you this before, this is the strength of the upwell water. So the upwell water goes down to 10 meters or less in the water column, so it's a very strong process inundating the Yucatan Shelf. So the darker the colors, the more intense the upwelling. We have this other situation in 2016 when the current went the other way around, and this is the effect, so not much stronger. So we need to better understand this process, and here's where technology comes, and all the instruments that can be now deployed in there, including the buoys, do oceanographic buoys to deploy them there, and then try to understand better this. This process is very attractive and an important thing to do. So you guys are developing this technology, or you want to, or you can, or you could, and this would be really helpful for us oceanographers doing this. And also, obviously, all the experience that NOC has on this would be greatly a great help as well. Okay, now I want to talk to you about another problem that we've been working on. This is renewable energy, basically using ocean currents in the Cozumel Channel. This is part of an ongoing project called the Semie Oceano, and part of this project, maybe Laura will talk about this, was funded by Newton Funds as well. So we're working with people in Strathclyde University and Cardiff. The main problem that we have is that the future of humanity, it sounds a bit drastic, but I think it's this way. The future of humanity depends on us finding cleaner and trustworthy energy sources that do not contribute to global warming. Global warming is a big thing that we need to face, and technology can help us to do that. So this is the world emission, greenhouse gas emissions by sector, and you can see that energy accounts for most of it. So if we reduce the greenhouse gas emissions due to the energy generation and use, then that'll be very good. So marine renewable energy could be one option. So in this project, we want to determine the feasibility of using marine currents as a source of energy. And I forgot to translate this one. But basically saying that we need to evaluate the resource using in situ measurements, satellite-derived data, and also numerical modeling, which is very important, as it's bunches of data that need to be processed and technology that needs to be developed to manage this and make it. This is the results from the HICOM model, 20 years of data, showing you the maximum currents around the country. This is only ocean currents, doesn't include tides. But you can very clearly see that in this region we have fairly strong currents, and nowhere around the country else we can find that. Here maybe, but the problem with that is that it's very far away from the coast. So the farthest from the coast, the most expensive and difficult would be to extract this energy. And this one here shows you the percentage of time that these currents are larger than 1 meter per second. Why 1 meter per second? Because that is the technological threshold. The machines that exist at the moment are not very efficient to take the energy from the ocean if currents are very slow. So they basically need currents that are fairly strong, above 1 meter per second. And, gracias. And in here, again, the Caribbean Sea, the Cozumel region seems to be one of the best places to have it. These red colors will be about 60 to 80% of the time with that velocity. I'm going to show you now some measurements in there and in there of ocean currents that we do with ADCPs. This is the exceedance probability. So in here you have the probability of exceeding a given value of velocity. So for example, 1 meter per second will be at about 50% of the time you will have currents that are above 1 meter per second. So, and this other one here is for the currents that are closer to the shore. So closer to shore, we don't really have much of a resource. So most of it is in the deeper regions. But then we need to work on the technology to help on that. This is the power calculations using the deep data, the deep current meter. You can see the variability, which is fairly strong variability. And here is the approximate annual cumulative power. Say, for example, at 49 meters depth, you have 3.4 megawatts hour per meter square. This is per meter square. And the hydrogen generators can be about 10 meters diameter, maximum values. And the annual energy consumption for Cozumel is about 275,000 megawatts hour. So we will really need to install about hundreds of these in order to make it profitable to have energy from the currents in this region. And when the values are above 1 meter per second, well, it goes smaller. Okay, so I need to finish, wrap up. Close to shore, we don't have much. And basically, I finish with this one. We use numerical models to identify where about in the channel we'll have the strongest currents. And this is the mean oceanic current vector. And this will be the mean currents from here. I think that's it. Okay, so this helps us to identify where in the region we will have the strongest currents. Okay.
All right, we have time for a couple of questions also. So, anybody? No? Everything clear? All right, thank you, Ismael.
Okay.
Right, our next speaker is Dr. Erlingera. So you have 10 minutes also for your speaker, and let's go.
Good morning. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I will speak on behalf of the Department of Ecology and Conservation of ENES. I'm going to talk about 3 projects that are running now in our department. The first project is about fisheries, and the name of the project is Characterization of Fishing Vessel Movement Patterns to determine the fishing gears used by the Yucatán artisanal fleet. This project is led by Dr. Edgar Torres, Dr. Carmen Pedrosa, both from ENES, and Dr. Jorge López Rocha from the Faculty of Science of UNAM also. The second project is about salinity gradient energy potential in Yucatán. This project is led by Dr. Cecilia Enrique, Dr. Vanessa Papiol, and Dr. Xavier Chiapa. And the third project is about marine biodiversity on the beaches of Yucatán, a baseline for the detection of environmental impact at different spatial and temporal scale. This project is led by me, and Dr. Nuno Simón is here from Faculty of Science of UNAM, and Dr. Elsa Noreña from Faculty of Chemistry in UNAM also. So briefly speaking, the first project about fisheries is trying to deal with the problem of overfishing and how to develop effective management strategies for the resource, marine resource. Fisheries is a very important activity in Yucatán, but most of the resources are overexploited. So one of the strategies that Edgar is trying to develop is the design of a mature approach. For this, what they need is trying to characterize the fishing gear, the target species, as well as the fishing zones. So combining this information, an effective management strategy can be developed. No? Until now, they already have some models about how the boats are moving to extract the resource, and the actual project is running is in joint collaboration with the SINVE staff and the EPOMEX. They already have some data about how the boats are moving in the coastal, depending of the fish they are trying to catch, and they already have some characterization of these resources. The second project is about the production of energy using the difference in salinity in the coastal area. The idea of this project is trying to generate clean energy without CO emission. The key point of this project is trying to use the difference in the salinity in the mass of water, but also trying to avoid negative impact on the ecosystem on the coastal zones. So Mexico has a lot of potential for this kind of production of energy, particularly in Yucatán. There are several coastal lagoons where this kind of salinity gradients can be found. They already have data developed in the Ria Lagartos. They have a very nice model about the tidal change, about the change of mass of water, the salinity gradient, and how this change in salinity can affect the physiology of the organism, mainly plankton, benthos, and fishes in the area. So the idea is now to extrapolate this methodology to other lagoons in Yucatan, but also in Oaxaca. Okay, they are planning to develop this approach in other areas in the next few years. No, the deliverable, the product to offer here is a spatial-temporal characterization of the salinity gradient energy potential that could be used as an alternative for managers. The third project is about biodiversity in the coast of Yucatan. We are dealing or trying to describe the patterns of species diversity along the beaches of Yucatan, thinking in potential environmental impact that may occur in the near future. There are strong interest in the government to develop the exploration and exploitation of oil and gas in the peninsula of Yucatan. Everybody knows that all this activity also have important risk and potential accidents. So the idea here is trying to characterize this habitat. The beaches are the most extensive habitat in this state, but we really know very few about this ecosystem. So the idea is develop a baseline of data that could be accessed by anyone in at least the next 2 years. We already have data. This data is available in the platform OBIS. This was a very small project developed the last year. We already have a data set of around 18 sites. We describe around 13 species, including abundance and densities. We also have estimation of pollutants in the sediment in all these sites. So this is a baseline information developed in only 1 month. The idea is build a database in the last 2 years that could be used for more extensive studies, assuming a potential oil spill in the future. This project has really few funds, only institutional funds, but we are looking forward to find more funds, especially for pollutants that are very expensive to estimate. That's it. These are the 3 projects we are developing in the Department of Ecology, but if you have any question, we're very pleased to answer.
Have any questions? Can we are student with the mic? Here, in the front.
Thank you very much. I'm curious about the salinity gradient method. So how do you extract energy from a salinity gradient?
Okay, this is a very good question. I will let Vanessa, that is the lead of the project, to explain that.
There are 2 main technologies. This is reversed osmosis and inverse electrodialysis, and this is by membranes that let the anion or cation flux.
Okay, So next we have a little break, 15 minutes, 20 minutes tops. There are some cookies and coffee for all of you in the building of liaison office. Here, straight forward in the next building. See you back in 15 minutes, please.
Take your things and go away. Do nothing, come back again. I'm okay, I'm on my way. My way, my way. I don't want to waste your time. You can go and leave your light. I am fine, I'm on my way. My way, my way. Many times I promised not to walk away, but you lie and let me alone in my bed. You will never share, don't come back again. Never come back. I do not need you, I'm really free. You do not need me, just walk away. I do not need you, I'm totally. Wake up, wake up, wake up. I do not need you, I'm really free. You do not need me, just walk away. I do not need you, I'm totally. Wake up, wake up. Take your things and go away. Do nothing, come back again. I'm okay, I'm on my way. My way, my way. I don't want to waste your time. You can go and leave your light. I am fine, I'm on my way. My way, my way. Many times I promised not to walk away, but you lie and let me alone in my bed. You will never share, don't come back again. Never come back. I do not need you, I'm really free. You do not need me, just walk away. I do not need you, I'm totally. Wake up, wake up, wake up. I do not need you, I'm really. Take your things and go away. Do nothing, come back again. I'm okay, I'm on my way. My way, my way. I don't want to waste your time. You can go and leave your light. I am fine, I'm on my way. My way, my way. Many times I promised not to walk away, but you lie and let me alone in my bed. You will never share, don't come back again. Never come back. I do not need you, I'm really Take your things and go away. Do nothing, come back again. I'm okay, I'm on my way. My way, my way. I don't want to waste your time. You can go and leave your light. I am fine, I'm on my way. My way, my way. Many times I promise not to walk away, but you lie and let me alone in my bed. You will never share, don't come back again. Don't come back. I do know that you want me lately. You do know that you just walk away. I do know that you want totally. Wake up, wake up, wake up. I do know that you want me lately. You do know that you just walk away. I do know that you want totally. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Take your things and go away. Do nothing, come back again. I'm okay, I'm on my way. My way, my way. I don't want to waste your time. You can go and leave your light. I am fine, I'm on my way. My way, my way. Many times I promise not to walk away, but you lie and let me alone in my. Take your things and go away. Do nothing, come back again. I'm okay, I'm on my way. My way, my way. I don't want to waste your time. You can go and leave your light. I am fine, I'm on my way. My way, my way. Many times I promise not to walk away, but you lie and let me alone in my bed. You will never share, don't come back again. Don't come back. I do know that you want me lately. You do know that you just walk away. I do know that you want totally. Wake up, wake up, wake up. I do know that you want me lately. You do know that you just walk away. I do know that you want totally. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Take your things and go away. Do nothing, come back again. I'm okay, I'm on my way. My way, my way. I don't want to waste your time. You can go and leave your light. I am fine, I'm on my way. My way, my way. Many times I promise not to walk away, but you lie and let me alone in my bed. You will never share, don't come back. Take your things and go away. Do nothing, come back again. I'm okay, I'm on my way. My way, my way. I don't want to waste your time. You can go and leave your light. I am fine, I'm on my way. My way, my way. Many times I promise not to walk away, but you lie and let me alone in my bed. You will never share, don't come back again. Don't come back. I do know that you want me lately. way. Do nothing, come back again. I'm okay, I'm on my way, my way, my way.